With you as the lizards and me as the birds, we'd be unstoppable. Welcome to Cardboard and Wine, episode 22. I'm Mamie.
And I'm Josh.
Grab a glass, pull up a chair, and let's talk about some games.
Today on the show, we bask in the glow of 4 days of gaming at the Whose Turn Con right in our own backyard. Mamie, I've got my mind on gaming and gaming on my mind.
I am sure you do. I love that phrase, basking in the glow. I think that's pretty accurate for what we're feeling after our last few days at Whose Turn.
Yeah, my BG Stats app is on fire.
They're probably wondering, it's like when your credit card sends you a, is this really you alert? I think that's what's going on with your...
Did you really play this game?
Did you really play this many games?
Yeah, but we are alluding to the fact that this past weekend was the Whose Turn Con right here in our hometown of Durham, North Carolina.
Yeah, Whose Turn is a con that we attended for the first time last year. We kind of found out about it very last minute and got in on it, and it was amazing. And so we were super excited to be able to return this year.
Yeah, and the best part for us, besides all the gaming, is it really is right here in our own backyard, 15 minutes from our house. And it's in the Durham Convention Center, and that's just a really great part of town with awesome restaurants and coffee and bars and pubs right there within walking distance. One thing that I enjoyed last year and this year was not just the great gaming, but the fact that then, we could walk outside with some friends and grab a great lunch or dinner or a beer or something like that. And that just added to the experience. Yeah,
and we definitely did all of those things. I mean, it's interesting. Some of our friends that we've gamed with quite a bit this year, we actually met at Whose Turn last year. So it's, a great way to meet new gamers in our area. We also brought some of our friends this year, so it was their first con. And it was just a blast. I only wish I could have been there more. I was able to take off Thursday, but had to work on Friday and half a day on Saturday and get the kids to and from babysitters. But it was a blast when I was there.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have gone. This is really one of the busiest times of work for me, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to bite the bullet, and I worked, today is Sunday, I worked quite a bit today to make up for taking Thursday and Friday off, but totally worth it. And you talked about some friends that we met last year and that we took with us. I think this year the con, I think it's steadily grown each year. There were last year about 350 people, about 400 people this year. And you're right, at least a couple people we brought for the first time. So fun to see that excitement around gaming growing right here in our little part of the world.
I definitely think it's a growing pastime. But before we get too much into gaming, let's talk about our other pastime. What do you think about this wine that you have tonight?
Well, I can see from the bottle that I'm excited about this. It looks like it's a really fancy bottle. This looks super, super expensive. I'm a little nervous.
We may be starting a new trend in our wine. I have another bottle tonight that I think you're actually going to really like.
Well, it says two of my favorite words, Cabernet Sauvignon.
I did pick this one out because it was the best wine with the most discount. That is kind of my go-to strategy. But
there you go.
This is a 2016 Sterling Vintners Collection Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa. Sterling is actually one of the better-known wineries in Napa, and for good reason. They've kind of consistently produced quality wine. And their slogan, I love their slogan, because, their name is Sterling. Their slogan is always polished, never dull.
That is what sterling means as an adjective.
Exactly.
And I'll say the label has sort of a silvery sheen to it.
That's right. Do you think the wine lives up to that?
Yeah, this is really tasty. I think it has all the features that I'm usually looking for in a cab.
Yeah.
It's fruity and bold and very very pleasant.
Maybe it makes returning from Whose Turn and coming back to real life just a little bit easier.
Why not enjoy this nice bottle of wine on a Sunday night before we have to transition back into the real world tomorrow? Thanks for picking this up. It's quite good. So what we're going to do today, we're not reviewing a game. We're just going to talk about a lot of games that we enjoyed over the last few days at the Whose Turn Con. Sound good?
Sounds good to me. So I had to get the kids to school on Thursday morning, but rushed straight over to the convention center after dropping them off because Josh had arranged to teach a game of Dominant Species with 6. This is a game we've talked about quite a bit. It's a worker placement battle for survival between species as the Ice Age is approaching. And it was one that almost made my favorites list, but I had only played it once, so I didn't feel like I could put it on the list. But after that second playthrough, I'm definitely sold on it. I think 6 players may be kind of the most fun because there's definitely sort of a scarcity that happens when there's 6, and it leads to a lot of complex decision making. Plus, we got to meet new friends, so it was a blast.
Yeah, that was one thing that I loved about the con last year was being my first con and not knowing a lot of people. There were quite a few folks who had signed up to do scheduled teaching games, and that was a great way to kind of dip your toes in and to get going with the con, knowing that you could count on playing a game that you were excited about. And so I decided to give back under that vein by doing a teaching game of one of my favorites, Dominant Species. And you're right, so fun to play that with the full complement of 6 players because each of those animal classes has its own unique ability, and really this game is all about the interaction with players. So having all those players there battling for resources and messing with each other's stuff is just really maximal fun. It was a great group. It was a lot of fun, and neither of us won.
No, but we had fun.
We both had heartbreaking, crushing defeats in different ways.
Yeah, I think both of us, they were due to a mistake that we made. Like one mistake.
Yeah, but that's how that game is.
It is.
And maybe it's like real life.
If your species accidentally runs towards the ice instead of away from it, you're in trouble.
One bad decision separates you from victory and destruction.
That sounds about right.
Another game that I got to play later in the day was a new one to me, and that was the game Concordia. And so Concordia is really, when you look at it, actually joked, we sat down, and this was another learning game, but one that I had, our friend Megan had signed up for, so they had an extra spot, so I decided to sit in, and you open it up, and there is a very familiar map of Italy and the Mediterranean. So I said, oh, what's this, a game about trading in the Mediterranean? And that's exactly what it's about. So it's as Euro game as it gets. But I had a really great time, and this apparently was the salsa expansion of Concordia that we played. And
Did you have to dance?
Well, I learned that salsa, well, I was actually thinking like pico de gallo or something, but apparently salsa is Italian for salt. So,
interesting.
So Concordia salsa apparently adds the extra resource of salt to the game, which was not present in the base game. So, and salt is like a wild resource. Having not played the base game, I don't know what it's like without the salt, but basically, it's a game where you've got some little dudes and boats on your map, and you move around to different cities and you build your houses and you obviously get some points. That's very similar to a lot of games. But one thing that I thought was really interesting about this game, but the thing that I thought was really cool was the deck building part of it and how that was directly related to scoring. So all the actions you did were these cards, and you could gain additional cards to do more actions. But then also that was directly tied to the way you scored. The types of cards you brought into your hand impacted how you scored at the end. I have not played a game like that. I found it to be really cool, but
I do like deck building, so maybe we'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed playing it. I would totally play again. I don't know if it's a game that I would want to add to my collection because, as you know, Mamie, trying to be a little more...
Let's check in on that. So, as you may remember from our last episode, Josh said that he could maybe buy no new games in 2019. We are now 3 weeks into 2019.
Almost 4 weeks.
Almost 4 weeks. And how many new games do we have?
We may have purchased one new game.
And
one expansion. I didn't think the expansion counted, but we will talk about both of those in just a little bit.
They are good games. It's tough.
How about that? So we'll keep you in suspense. As you're listening, see if you can guess what new game I may have broken my rule and purchased already in 2019. And we'll talk about it in about 10 minutes.
But you think Concordia wouldn't make the cut?
I don't think so.
Okay, not worth breaking it.
I have a lot of games about trading in the Mediterranean.
All right, so what about Space Base? So I didn't play Space Base, but I heard you talk about it a lot.
Yes, it's funny. This was a game that, this was not the first time I played it. I played it once at JoshCon back in the mountains over the summer. And it was okay. I had an okay time with it, but I realized that the last time I played it, it was A, right after we had finished a brain-burning game of Guy Project, and B, I think it was at least 1 or 2 in the morning. So
maybe not the best experience.
That may have clouded my opinion a little bit. So there was actually a space-based tournament going on as part of the con, which I did not get into because I didn't think I liked space-based. But our good friend Dave, who we met at the con last year, he was in the space-based tournament, and he was talking to me about it. And so I actually got to play. Actually, it's funny. I closed out both Thursday and Friday night of the con playing Space Base with Dave and Jenny and had a great time. It's actually a fun fact. I think I've now played Space Base 3 or 4 times, but never prior to 10:30 p.m.
It's a late night game, I guess.
I guess it is. But Amy, Space Base, there's a lot of similarities to Machi Koro.
Oh, you don't love Machi Koro.
I don't love Machi Koro, but that's what's surprising to me about Space Base is I feel like a lot of the infuriating parts of Machi Koro have somehow been morphed into fun parts of Space Base. So, you really are building your engine and kind of upgrading your ships so that better and better things happen if a 2 is rolled or a 3 or 11 or 12. And I don't know, it feels like it moves quicker. I will say I completely love the art and styling of Machi Koro 100% more than Space Base. But
interesting.
Space Base, way, way, way more fun, in my opinion.
Another game that I got a chance to play just once was this game Trellis, which is a 2018 game, and it was part of the play to win table. So one of the things they do at Whose Turn is they have a table full of games, and every time you play them, you get entered in a drawing to win those games. And so we try to grab as many of those and try them as we can. And Trellis I was immediately drawn to the box because it's just a really simple dark background with vines and the title. And it's a pretty simple game. It's a tile placement game. You're trying to connect vines. And when you connect vines of the same color, you get to place these really cute little flower meeples on them. We only played one quick game, but what leapt out at me right away was kind of that pretty artwork. And it's really sort of zen. You're just placing a tile, getting a flower or 2 or not. I definitely think I need to play it a few more times before I understand the strategy. But luckily, our friend Jenny, who I think might have been the person that played it the most times, actually won that play to win game. So hopefully we'll get to play that one again soon.
Yeah, I think she really enjoyed that game. I was really happy to see she actually won.
Yeah.
That was cool. One thing I will say about Trellis, so they had this whole table of play to win games. And so I remember the first day I was looking at the games, and Trellis was the one that jumped out at me from, that box looks like a game I would like to play.
Yeah, definitely.
The rule book was awful.
Oh, really?
I sat down.
You had already wrestled through it
goodness.
before I sat down to play with you.
Yeah, I think it was a situation where the authors really tried to make it as streamlined and simple as possible. It was only like 2 or 3 pages. Almost incomprehensible. It was almost too simple. It's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? But we figured it out and had a good time playing Trellis. A game on the complete opposite end of the spectrum was a game that I got to play on Friday morning, first thing. And this was one that I signed up for, a learning game. And I'll go ahead and say the game, it was Sidereal Confluence, Trading and Negotiation in the Elsian Quadrant.
What?
Doesn't that sound great? Sounds fun, huh?
I'm not sure I know what the word trading and negotiation means.
Sidereal Confluence?
No.
So this is a game that I had read about and heard about, but had not ever had a chance to play. So I thought, well, what better time to check it out than a learning game at Whose Turn? So there were 6 players, and none of us had actually played before. And I think what sums this game up the best was the guy who owned the game, Ray.
Wait, he owned it and he had never played it before? He
said that he'd owned the game for a year and a half and had read the rule book several times, but had not had an opportunity yet to play it. So let me just tell you a little bit about it. Fascinating game that is absolutely unique from any other game I've played. So each player takes on the role of an alien race or faction that has some sort of special ability, but you're all traders. So you're trying to trade all these different types of goods to try to gain the most victory points.
So is this an economic game?
Yeah, I would say it is.
I know you enjoy an economic game.
But the thing that's fascinating about it is there's no money involved. So in the middle of the table, so you're all sitting around the table, and you've all got your little thing that tells you about your specific faction or race. And there are these technologies you have, and what these technologies do is they convert resources from one type to other types. And so in the middle of the table is just this giant pile of resources that are represented by 3 or 4 colors of small cubes, 3 or 4 colors of big cubes, these little hexagonal cylinders, and some ships. And so then your technologies in front of you, they do things like convert 2 small brown cubes into a large blue cube, a large white cube, and a cylinder or something like that. So you got a bunch of these. So what you're doing for the most part is can upgrade these technologies using different cubes. And then there's just a trading phase. The bulk of the game is just trading. You kind of look around at what cubes people have that they've produced with their technology and say, hey, I'll give you 2. You got 3 large black cubes over there. I'll give you a blue cube and a cylinder for that. And you just do this.
And everybody's doing it at the same time?
Everybody's doing it at the same time. And one thing to give a little bit of method to the madness, on everybody's little, everybody has a little cheat sheet where the game lays out the general value of each of the resources. So, for example, 3 of the small cubes are approximately equal in value to 2 of the big cubes, which are equal in value to 1 of the cylinders, which is equal in value to 1 victory point. And so that's sort of your starting place for negotiation. But as the game moves on, so there's 6 rounds. So as the game moves on, though, there's certain bonus cards with technologies that might make certain resources much more useful to you because you can convert them into greater number of victory points that might be totally different from someone else. So it's really just this sandbox trading economic game. Fascinating.
That's kind of fun. I mean, I like the negotiation and the open trading that happens sometimes in games like Catan where you're, trading wood for sheep, but it sounds like in this game it's much more an intense part of the gameplay.
Yeah, and so, I think so this game plays up to 9 players, which I think
my gosh.
would be absolutely bananas.
How many of you were playing?
We had 6.
Okay.
And again, keep in mind, each race has its own unique flavor and ability that range in complexity. So each one's given a different complexity level. Mine was a 3 out of, I don't know what it goes up to. But like, for example, one of the things that my race could do was I had these little acknowledgement tokens. So as part of a trade, I could throw in, say, well, I'll trade you this, but I'm going to include one of these acknowledgement tokens. And so if someone took one of my acknowledgement tokens as part of the trade, and then they upgraded or developed a technology, I would get a victory point.
Oh, interesting.
And so that sort of factored, but then everybody had these sort of unique little tweaks. And this is the thing that's crazy. Part of the negotiation, too, could be you could let people borrow your technology for a round to use it. Right? But then they would give it back.
How long was the game?
It took us a little under 3 hours. So I would say the teaching, I didn't start the timer. The teaching probably took 30 minutes as we were kind of working through it. But then the gameplay itself, even with a couple bathroom breaks and coffee breaks, was a little bit under like 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Okay.
So really, really, really interesting game. This would not be an after Thanksgiving with the family game.
But it sounds like something our game group would really enjoy.
I think so. I think it's one of those things. I see why it would be hard to get to the table, maybe, because it plays really well, I think, with more players, but you have to have the right players to play it. People who are willing to get past the this looks nuts aspect of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that was Sidereal Confluence. Really, really interesting experience.
One of the games that we saw a lot on a lot of tables all over the con, which is no surprise, was Wingspan. Speaking of games that Josh purchased.
If you guessed Wingspan as
you were correct.
The game that I broke my pledge and purchased in 2019, you're correct.
I have to be honest, I'm really glad that he broke it for Wingspan. It's quickly becoming one of our favorite games. I don't want to go too much in depth because, spoiler alert, we're actually going to talk about Wingspan on our next episode in more depth. But we've played a couple of times, and then at the con, we were able to bring in some new friends and teach it to them. And this is a awesome action selection game with beautiful artwork. I love all the cards and all the little birds. Each card is unique and has a unique bird on it. And along with the information you need to play the game, there's a little description and a little fact about the different birds. And I tend to get caught up in reading those. I don't know that you've read any of them, but it's quickly becoming one of our very favorite games.
Yeah, no, we've probably played that one the most since
in 2019 for sure.
Since the last episode. And I would say, and I don't think I'm over exaggerating, but I think at any point during the 4 days of the Whose Turn Con, you could walk through the convention space and see no fewer than 5 games of Wingspan going.
Yeah, it was on a lot of tables.
Yeah, it was by far the most played game. It reminded me, I think last year, of Azul was probably that game a year ago, but Wingspan was everywhere.
And for good reason. I mean, it's a great game.
Yeah, it's great. So I think we will save much discussion about that game.
I know there's so much I could say.
Yeah. So teaser there. If you want to hear more about Wingspan,
come back
in 2 weeks and we'll talk more about it. So one thing I got a chance to do a few episodes back, Mamie, we talked about Keyforge, which is not our general cup of tea.
No.
Maybe still not your cup of tea.
I'm not sure. I'm still undecided.
Well, I think we had mentioned on that episode that we had some interest in possibly doing some competitive play, maybe play in a little Keyforge tournament, because as many collectible card games, there tends to be sort of a competition scene for the game. So at Whose Turn, I noticed someone was running. Actually, there were a couple different Keyforge tournaments, but one that interested me was a sealed deck tournament. So it was open to 8 players, and you paid $10, and there were 8 brand new decks. And so there were 4 people on each side of the table. And so what you would do is you would play 4 games of Keyforge. And so after each game, you would basically get up and move down 1 seat. So you would play each of the decks on your side of the table. And then at the end, and as we mentioned when we talked about Keyforge, the whole goal is to forge 3 keys. So you would keep track, win or lose, of how many keys you forged. And after your 4 games with your 4 different decks, all of the people on your side of the table would add up the number of keys they forged. And then in order of score, you would get to get first, second, third, or fourth choice of a deck to take home with you.
Oh, that's super fun. That was on Saturday morning, and sadly, I had to go into work because I think I would have enjoyed that.
Yeah, well, I will say I enjoyed it. I did not win a single game.
How many keys did you forge?
Well, I forged anywhere from 0 to 2 keys. I will say, in my defense, the other side of the table fared way better than my side of the table. I think of the
16 games?
Yeah, out of the 16 different games played, there were only 2 wins on my side of the table.
Oh, wow. Maybe you all just got the short draw when it came to decks.
That's what I would like to believe.
Yeah, I'm sure that's it.
I'm sure that's probably it. Crap decks. So anyway.
We got one of those decks at home now.
I have a deck. Here's the deck. Here's the last choice of deck.
Great.
Right here. Not even any aliens on it, Mamie. So,
that's good.
But I had a great time. It was really, really great guys. Really fun experience, win or lose. So that was neat.
I think that's one of the great things about cons is the opportunity to do things like that, right? Like it would be hard to get that together just with our friends. And playing a game like Dominant Species with 6 is not an easy thing for us to pull together or an easy thing for us to dedicate the time to.
Or a 6-player game of Sidereal Confluence.
True, definitely. Not something we would just pull together on a school night, but having that designated time, right, that we've set aside, that we can dive into some of those deeper games, that we can spend doing some things, like that Keyforge tournament. Another really cool experience at Whose Turn was we played Welcome To, which is a 2018 kind of flip and write, not roll and write, but flip cards and write game where you're developing a 1950s perfect subdivision. And the way this game works, you have a tear out sheet of paper that's your subdivision that you're writing on based on the cards that come out, and it truly can be played with anywhere from 1 to 100 players. So at Whose Turn, they had a 30-person game of Welcome To, and it was overwhelming, but it was fun.
Yeah, I think it was mostly overwhelming because we had never played before, and the cards the cards were not broadcast on a screen, but actually through Facebook Live.
Yeah, I think if they had been projected on a screen, that would have definitely made it easier. We were trying to watch on our phones, on Facebook Live, and there were some technical glitches where we weren't sure if we were caught up with the rest of the room, and the room was a little bit noisy with some other games going on. So that definitely, I think, made it a little more challenging, but it was still really a fun game. After that experience, we decided we definitely wanted to play again. So the next day, we broke that game out with 5 players, all at the same table, and really enjoyed it. I mean, I think it truly is a game that you can play with anywhere from 1 player. I mean, I could see playing it by myself just to see if I could improve my score, all the way up to, 100 players if you had a desire to do that. I don't know that I would. But the rules are pretty simple. There's not a lot of rules overhead, but the choices in terms of every time the cards are flipped, there's 3 different things that you could do, and everybody kind of picks something different based on what they're hoping to accomplish. And everybody is trying to accomplish the same objectives, but the way you prioritize that and the way that you reach those objectives can be different. So really low rules overhead, but a lot of complex choices. And I could see a lot of times that we would get this one on the table.
Yeah, I think this would be very approachable and interesting to a lot of different friends. It's just a fun puzzle. It's like really taking Yahtzee up 10 levels, I would say.
I may have to buy this one since you can't.
Yeah, I can't buy it, but nothing's stopping you from buying it. That's for sure.
I had hoped we would win this one. This was also one of the play to win games, but sadly, I don't think we got enough plays in.
Yeah. Another fun gaming moment for me was playing Root. And so I think we've talked about Root before, but for some reason I've had sort of this, well, actually, I don't know, for some reason. I think
Josh is addicted to Root.
Well, ever since the expansion arrived, the Riverfolk expansion, which again does not count as a game purchase because it's an expansion purchase, it sort of rekindled my desire to play Root. I know we played, not at the con, but we played earlier this week, and I was the Lizard Cult and got trounced. I got pummeled. But, I think what it brought up for me is, each of those factions are so different. It's almost like each one is its own puzzle that I just want to figure out. Like, how do you win with this? Like, how do you do this one? And so I realized, for me, I played the cats, played the birds. I still don't think I've won with the birds. I'm not sure, but the Vagabond I played a couple times and done pretty well.
You're good with the Vagabond.
Yeah, the Vagabond I think is my sweet spot.
I played for the first time with the birds actually at the con, and it did not go well.
The bird was not your sweet spot.
It was not. I had poor luck or poor choices. I'm not sure.
That's true. You did get some. The birds are kind of beholden to the cards they draw. The lizards are too, by the way. To a certain
I have
degree.
to try the lizards.
Actually, I guess the lizards are beholden to the cards that are discarded by other players, which is almost worse. But anyway, I had, for whatever reason, had not had many opportunities to play with the Woodland Alliance. And so I got the chance to do that earlier this week and got beaten down pretty badly. So
I had a really strong cat.
Yeah, you killed us with the cats that game.
I had a really strong cat game.
Yeah, we did. We let you, in that game, you let it get away from you and you let somebody get a lead and there's no looking back. But ever since then, I was like, I want to try again. I want to try the Woodland Alliance again. So got a great game going. We had our good buddy Jeff, who was there at his first con. He was with us. And then Dave again. And I pulled it out. Finally, it was a close, tight game, besides the birds, unfortunately, who were flagging. But between the cats and the Vagabond and the Woodland Alliance, we were all right there at the end, but I pulled it out. So fun. I still am just loving that game.
And it is always changing, right? Because there are all those different factions that you can play. And there's, now with the expansion, there's even more. And now there's the mechanical cats. What's it called when the cats are?
Oh yeah, with the expansion there's the mechanical marquee.
Yeah, so now you can play cooperatively, everyone against the cats, which is I'm excited to try.
Yeah, that'd be great for you and I, because Root's not necessarily a great 2-player 1-against-1 game, but it'd be fun for us to go against the mechanical cats.
With you as the lizards and me as the birds, we'd be unstoppable.
Yeah, an unlikely pair, really.
Lizards and birds.
Well, one thing, Mamie, to tell you, you probably have not seen this, but just this past week, Leader Games, who makes Root, announced there will be a second expansion to Root coming out, I assume later this year, with 2 new boards. There will be the Mountain Pass map, so you'll be battling for control of some mountain passes, and then the lakeside map. There'll be a big lake.
Oh, nice. We haven't even tried just using the
winter board.
Yeah.
No, we got to try that. But the big news, of course, the reason for our Root expansion is the addition of 2 new factions, the Crows and the Moles.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, apparently the Crows are espionage.
Oh, I would have thought moles would be espionage.
No, apparently these Crows are about espionage, and probably similar to maybe the Woodland Alliance. They don't have as big of a presence on the board, but they score points somehow by manipulating other players' hands.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but then the Moles are another, sort of like the Cats and Birds, are about putting lots of dudes on the map and controlling clearing. So
that sounds right for rodents.
We'll be super interested to see what new adorable meeples come out next.
That might have to be another purchase in 2019.
Yeah. One other game that I played, it's funny. I realized as we were making notes, we played a ton of games that came out in 2018. So I think we're really catching up on our games from the last year. But this is another one that we purchased in 2018, but more recently got to play, and that was Teotihuacan, or Teotihuacan, or I'm not sure how to say it, but it's a Teotihuacan. This game is outstanding. This is everything I love in a game. It's moving a dude around, taking actions, getting points, moving up tracks. There's a pyramid. There's symbols. I love it. Yes. What do you think about Teotihuacan? Man?
So Teotihuacan, I'm not going to try to say it, but so yeah, this is an awesome game. It's by the same folks that did Tzolk'in, which is another game that we really enjoy. And obviously they have a thing for that Central American society thing, because that's definitely what's going on here. You're building the temple to the gods, and I really enjoy the way there's interaction in this game, in that based on where other players have their pieces placed depends on either how much income you get or how much you have to spend to take certain actions. And so there's a lot of kind of interaction there. And again, this is a game that we've been playing quite a bit. I'm pretty sure we'll have to talk about it on a show.
Absolutely. Yeah, it just feels so fresh. There's so many games. Geez, how many times have we talked about, and this is an action selection game, and this is a worker placement game. And
obviously we enjoy all of those.
We absolutely do. And Tzolk'in and Teotihuacan both do that. You're kind of putting a thing on the map to take an action, but just with that wheel in Tzolk'in, and then the way you, like you said, Mamie, the way your cost to even go there depends on how many different types of workers are there, and then you can, the fact that your worker is a die that you can then power up by moving it up 1 pip, and then it ascends. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And then there's a pyramid.
A lot of really unique mechanisms going on in both of those games.
Yeah, I was playing this with a couple new folks, Heath and Susan, who had not played the game before. And we were about 1 hour into the game, and Susan just immediately goes, I really like this game.
That's how I felt the first time we played it.
Oh, yeah, it is good. It's really good.
It is really
looking
good.
forward to playing it more, and I definitely think we'll talk about it or in a future episode. All right, Mamie, so the last day of the con, towards the end, we had our kiddos with us, and one thing that was awesome about Whose Turn, big shout out to the organizers who planned some childcare at Whose Turn on Saturday.
Amazingly affordable childcare. I cannot thank you enough, whoever was in charge of making that arrangement happen, because our kids were there almost all day and they had a blast, and it didn't cost us a fortune.
Yeah, no, it was great. But one thing that was really cool is towards the end of the day, we had our kids, and the childcare area was right on the side of the sort of part of the room where the games were being played. But we actually brought our kids out on the main gaming floor, and we were sitting there playing Chick-a-Pig together, and just had this sort of moment thinking wow, this is really what the future is going to be like. We're sitting here at this gaming con, we're playing games with our kids and having a good time. And I don't know, I just had this moment of, wow, this is really cool. This is really fun.
Yeah, I mean, they're really starting to get into some of the more advanced games and starting to develop some independence and some ability to, enjoy games. And I mean, it is something that's been part of, the last couple of years. They've seen us doing it, and we've played a lot of games as a family. And so it's becoming part of our family culture. I mean, at one point it was really cute. This little boy ran up to our table and he said, "Do you want to come play Batman Flux with us?" And our kids said, "Sure." And they ran off. And Josh and I looked at each other like, should we be concerned? And so I walked over to see, and they had given up on Flux because I think it was a little too hard, but they were playing Batman Love Letters and having a blast.
Yeah, and actually our kids today, because they knew we had the original Love Letter, and so our kids started playing Love Letter together, and they were doing it pretty much correctly. Which
is something we would never have thought of breaking out to play with them.
Yeah, so it's just been really fun to also see our kids sort of advance in their own gameplay. I personally am looking forward to putting to bed some of these hobby games and
breaking out some things that are a little more complex. I mean, tonight, so one of the games that Josh actually picked up at the
flea market
at Whose Turn was Takinoko.
Yeah, I saw Takinoko for $10.
I mean, it's an adorable panda eating bamboo. And so we broke that one out tonight with the kids. And at first, when Josh was explaining it, I was afraid it was going to be a little much for them, but it wasn't. They jumped right in.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like we were playing a real game.
Yeah, we were.
With our kids.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And certainly looking forward to playing that and chomping some more bamboo in the future. Well, Mamie, we have talked about a lot of games. We've covered a lot of ground. Again, I feel so fortunate that we have such a great gaming con 15 minutes from our house. It's just so amazing.
It really is. And the last night, and I know they do this on purpose, the organizers of another con that's just right down the road in Wilmington, Board Games at the Beach, did kind of a little plug. And Josh and I looked at each other and we're like, can we make that happen in April? We've already bought our tickets for the Dice Tower Con in July. We're not missing that one. I'm excited about that one, but we might be able to squeeze in one more.
Well, I will say that one is put on, organized by Cape Fear Games. And Heath, that I alluded to, that I played Teotihuacan with, is the owner of Cape Fear Games. And he did say, if I come down to Wilmington, he will give me a free beer from their new gaming cafe there. So,
well, I mean, that sounds like a reason to go to Wilmington.
I think it might be. But yeah, special thanks to Rob Reinhart, who's the organizer of the Whose Turn Con. Just a really, really great guy, and all the work he and his family and all the other folks involved with Whose Turn put in is very much appreciated. And it will certainly be a staple on our calendar every January as long as they keep doing it.
Definitely. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to Cardboard and Wine. For show notes, links, and other fun info about the games we discuss on the show, you can visit our website at cardboardandwine.com.
If you have feedback on the show or suggestions for a future show, you can send us a tweet at Board and Wine, email us cardboardandwine@gmail.com, or jump into our guild on Board Game Geek. You can see photos of the games we play on our Instagram at Cardboard and Wine.
You can leave us a review on iTunes. We'd love to hear from you, and it will help new listeners find the show.
All right, everyone. Until next time,
cheers and happy gaming.